Hey, man. Oh my gosh. You like demons? You like scary monsters? Do you like the people who try to fight and kill the scary monsters? Well, I got a treat for you because my special guest has been in a lot of horror movies and probably one of your favorite ones. Does this person look familiar? Uh huh. Uh huh. You know who I'm talking about here. Whoopsie. Up, look at there. Who is that? Who is Today, my special guest is amazing and you're going to love him. I met him last year and he's just a sweetheart. What a great guy. I can't wait. Let's get going. Oh my gosh, let's have some fun. Hi, this is Honeygregory and welcome to my channel. And today I'm doing double duty. I've got my perpetual learning logo up and Honey goes to the drive-in because I have some wonderful person with me today. Oh my God, you're going to love him so much. And you probably already know who he is because I gave you a tip earlier because I ran my little thing past Zoom real quick.
Oh, check it out.
Oh, who is here today? We have Brian Bremer. He's an actor. He's a voice coach, voice actor. He's been in commercials and on stage and in movies and we all know him best for the great job he did as a young man in Pumpkinhead. So welcome, Brian. Welcome.
Thank you, honey. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me. Great. I'm glad I get two logos.
Oh yeah. So I
I
have two
get both
podcasts.
logos, perpetual learning and goes to the drive-in. I'm very flattered.
Oh, you're so sweet.
And it's
Well,
great to see you again. You're so beautiful. It's so great to see you. I haven't seen you since frankencon, and I think I'm going to see you again at frankencon or
yes, I'm going
something.
to be there too. Yes,
Yay!
I know,
Awesome.
right? And I think
Yeah,
Bronson's
right on.
coming, but
Right?
Felissa is not going to be there.
She's not going to be there this year. No, but
Yeah,
I
it's kind of
think she
sad.
is. Yeah, I think I am going to see
So
her a couple of times this year, but not at frankencon. So.
yeah, and I just interviewed her last week, and she's so
Oh,
adorable. And she's like, "I want you in my movies, and you're going to do this and that." And I was like, "All right,
I love her. I
I
love her.
know,
She's kind
right?
of I mean, I don't mean this to mean that she's old, but she's kind of the matriarch of our scene. Like she is really the mother to so many people,
Yeah,
and she
yeah.
shepherds all of us. She's helped guide me through the appearance career thing
Oh,
because that's a whole different ballgame, as you know. That's like a whole
yep,
different world from on-camera acting, or
yeah.
definitely for voiceover. So she's been a real guide and mentor. And of
She
course,
just,
she's always the life of the party. But we're gonna have fun with at
I
frankencon
know.
anyway
I
because
told
you're
her, I
also
said,
the
I'm gonna
party.
miss you. You're not gonna be there. I go, what are we gonna do? We won't
I
have
know,
anybody
man.
to pass cocktails around.
The 5 o'clock shots. Yeah, exactly. Or the 11 a.m. shots.
So
Hey,
Bronson said, I'll be the bartender again. I was like, all right.
great, great,
So,
great.
oh my
We're
God,
gonna
you're
have
such,
fun. I love Frankie. That's a great show.
yeah, they're such nice people. And I really had a good time last time. I didn't know quite what to expect, but I'm
Oh
really
yeah,
looking forward to it again because I'm kind of getting the hang of it too, like you are. Like I was really nervous, like the first, because I
right.
did the Jamboree a couple years ago. And, I never done anything like that
Oh yeah,
before.
yeah.
And I'm like, what do I do? But each time it gets more
I
fun.
know.
Everybody.
Yeah, yeah.
And I ran into you on the elevator and I'm like having this wonderful conversation with
The
this
very
great
first day.
person. And I'm like, who is
Yeah.
that? I like this guy. And so I went around, was talking to Bronson, and then you came down and got on your bill. I was like, oh, that's the guy I was telling you about. He goes, oh, that's the guy I was telling you about.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That
So
was the
it's really
very
cool.
first day. I think that was the
Yep.
very first day we were there. I met you in the elevator. Like I had just checked in. It was heading downstairs to get something to eat or something, and
Yeah.
we started chatting. And
I
I
know.
knew
I was
you
like,
had to be there.
it was instant. Like,
Yeah, it was
it's like my
instant.
new best friend or something. It was really bizarre.
It was
Um,
great.
but so okay, everybody loves you. And everyone wants to hear about Pumpkinhead and how you got started. So we got to start there. So if you don't mind.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
So go
no,
ahead and
not at
tell us.
all. Not at all. Yeah, well, I found acting really in junior high and high school because, I had won some public speaking awards in the Cub Scouts
Wow.
and in the Boy Scouts, and I was good in front of people on stage, so I got into the theater department and really found my tribe. I wasn't really great at sports. I was smart, but my first F was in calculus, and so I wasn't like the smartest.
Me too.
But I found something I was really good at in the theater department, or at least I felt I got affirmation. And at
Yeah.
that age, that's kind of what can drive you a
Yeah.
little bit. That and just finding your tribe, finding people
Yeah.
that are kind of like you.
Hmm.
I was always out back smoking with the bad kids in the theater in the high school. So I started acting, and my last year of high school, I really had no idea where I was going to go to college. I had kind of a rough last year of high school. I was kind of a bad boy, honestly, and I
Yeah.
had an unrequited love, and that's when I made my first F, and I went from a straight A student to anyway, and I just didn't know where I was going to go to school. Even in my senior year, I hadn't applied or anything, and my mother threw me in the car and she took me to the Southeastern Theater Conference in Tampa, Florida. And I auditioned with two monologues and a song. And
Ooh,
after that weekend, I had 13 offers for college in arts programs.
no way.
Yeah, man, I was like, oh, shoot.
Wow. Yeah.
And Pepperdine University in Los Angeles, I grew up in North Carolina and South Carolina. So
Right.
that's where all this.
Right.
So Pepperdine University in Los Angeles actually offered me a full ride. They offered
Oh
me an
my
acting
gosh.
and playwright. I know.
I'm so jealous. I applied there and they were like, who?
Did you apply to law school there? Did you apply to law school or undergrad?
Both.
Okay. I know their law school is, fantastic.
Well, I
And
just want to be by the beach.
I know that's right. And I met so many celebrities. I couldn't believe it. I knew nothing about the school. I had
Yeah.
nothing about it. My dad at the time, he's like, well, they offered a full ride. That's where you're going. I mean,
Yeah.
none of us knew anything about the school except they offered a full ride. So I
Yeah.
didn't know
Free
it was a
money.
Church of Christ school. I didn't really realize it was in Malibu. And we drove out there and I was like, oh dear God, what is this? But that took me to Los Angeles. And the one thing too, they have a great law school. They also have an amazing theater program. Now, I was there on full scholarship, but at the time it was a very expensive school. So
Yeah.
of course, they have a lot of wealthy donors, a lot of wealthy patrons. And our theater department was amazing. A
Wow.
huge theater, state of the art for the time. In fact, our teachers would tell us, enjoy this because you're not going to work in a theater like this for years and years to come, if ever,
Oh,
if ever.
wow.
And it's
That's
true. Most of us
encouraging.
will graduate you know,
Yeah.
most of us graduate and you're working in coffee can theaters and, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, you're hustling, right? It's a
Yeah.
hustle. But it was kind of a joke, but it was a state of the art theater. And the first play I did there, I really did not see the ocean or the light of day because I was on full scholarship and you had to pay the scholarship back
If
by
you didn't do
working in
well.
a theater program. Yep. If you weren't in a show, you had to do lights. If you weren't doing lights, you had to stage manage or you had to build sets. Like you were required as part of your scholarship to put in time in the shop. And so as a result, I learned about everything about producing a live show, which is great.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's fantastic. Yeah.
yeah, but never saw the light of day.
Darn.
The first show I was in, I got cast in the big musical my very first semester there, and I played Mordred in Camelot. And
Ooh.
and so this is the long story to answer your question. Well, there was an this is that old Hollywood story that everyone thinks this is how it happens, but that's just the beginning and of how I got there. But there was an agent, actually it was the receptionist for an agency called the Gage Group was in the audience. And she came backstage after the show and she said, you were great. I want to get you in front of my bosses. I'm going to get you an interview. This is the receptionist at the agency, which is why you are always nice to every single person that works in a place, right?
Absolutely.
Because you never know. Well, sure enough, they got
Absolutely.
me an interview with Marty Gage and all the agents.
Hmm.
And I did a monologue where I cried and everything. I'll never forget. And they took me. So then I just started auditioning and going out for them. And I went out for a lot of stuff. One of the first things I went out for was Pumpkinhead.
Hmm.
Didn't know a whole lot about it. Didn't know a whole lot about Stan Winston at the time. I learned very quickly about
Hmm.
him. After my second callback, well, I had just gotten the part. And I was in my apartment in Canoga Park with about 8 other guys because I had about 8 roommates at the time.
Oh, yeah, right. Because you have
And we're
to.
watching the Oscars, yeah,
Yeah.
and we're watching the Oscars, and all of a sudden, Stan Winston gets an Oscar for effects for Aliens, for the Queen Alien,
Oh
and
my
I'm like, holy
gosh.
shit! And I called my mom. I called my mom in South Carolina. I said, Mom, are you watching that guy? That's who I'm going to work with. That's the guy I just auditioned for. I'm going to work for that guy. So I was wide-eyed and didn't know anything. But I remember when I got the part, my agent at the Gage Group at the time, and I don't remember his name, but I can see him so clearly. He was one of the younger guys. He sets me down in his office and he goes, well, it's a horror movie, kid. Everybody has to do one. I'm like,
Oh,
okay, I'm gonna.
hey, whatever gets your foot
I,
in the door.
I loved horror though. Like
Yeah.
I grew up in my basement with my friends, smoking weed,
Sneaking around.
Halloween, and yeah,
We're watching the
but,
scary stuff. Mom said no.
right. That's right. So
Yeah.
like when we go out and meet the fans at these conventions, we have a lot in common.
I know, right?
So he told me that. I'm like, this is a really good script. I mean, this is Stan Winston. I'm thinking all this in my head. I didn't say
Right.
it. But that's how I got my start. And then I just kept auditioning. A lot of people think that I did Pumpkinhead and then got Society because of that, then got Silent Night 5 because of that. I was just auditioning. I was just going
Right.
out and auditioning, and they just happened to all fall within this time period. And I'm still a working actor today. I had auditions this. I audition every morning for voice acting, and I
That's
hustle, hustle.
amazing.
I don't do a lot of on camera anymore, just because I really found voice acting and I fell in love with it.
We still have a great look. I mean, you're still a handsome
Oh,
man
thank
with a
you.
great energy. Maybe you
Thank you.
should. Maybe you
Thank you. Well,
should.
I
Look
might,
at you.
I tell you honestly, I never really enjoyed the on-camera audition process,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
but nobody does. Nobody
yeah.
likes to audition.
No,
Anybody
everybody's
who
a
tells you they
bottle of
love audition,
nerves.
they're just, oh, I know.
Yeah.
And that's a part of what makes you a good performer. You never get rid of those nerves. In fact, you
Hmm.
need them
Yeah.
because the only way for them to not they inform your performance, but
Uh-huh.
the only way for them not to control you
Hmm.
is preparation.
Yeah.
So they make you prepare. And so it's
Hmm.
kind of an essential part of the creative process, being nervous, but you don't know that till you're as old as I am and you've been through enough rejection,
Yeah. Yeah.
But now that we've met the fans, I, I never knew the fans were out there. I honest to God never thought about it until a
Yeah.
guy approached me a couple of years ago and said, you should start coming to these shows. That's different. It's almost like being in the theater and being able to meet your audience afterwards. Because, in
Yeah.
film, you never meet the audience.
Yeah.
And now we are able to go and like meet people that watch us. And so now when I think about doing horror or independent film, I really think about the people I know that are sitting that I know that are sitting there, and you do the performance for them, and it changes. And maybe that should have always been my approach and should always be everyone's approach. Is to not make it about you, but don't forget, we're storytellers.
Right.
We're storytellers, and we're telling the story to real people.
Yeah.
And so I did a couple of indies last year, and and I had so much fun
Yeah.
because, and you were in one of them, or maybe both of them. But I had so much fun because that really was my approach. I'm like, I'm going to do my work. I
Yeah.
do know how to do the work now.
Yeah.
I didn't always. When I was younger and when I was in Pumpkinhead and those movies, I think I got lucky that I gave good performances because I knew how to do what I was doing, but I didn't really know what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Now I know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I have no doubt. And I do on camera from time to time. If a casting director asks me to audition, I don't turn it down because my dad always said, walk through every door that opens. But now
Yeah.
I prepare and I enjoy the process. And if I don't get it, I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. And you never know too, because I remember going on auditions, you'd have like 10 a week or whatever, and you would go in
Yeah.
and go, oh my God, I want this role so bad. And they were like, nah, you're not right for this.
And
And
you
you're
just
like,
can't have any expect. I know, believe me.
then you go in
It,
this one and you go, this is such a stupid part. I don't want this part. And they go, oh, you're perfect. And you're like, oh, great.
you're
I'm perfect for
hired.
the stupid part, you know?
We found our bunny foo foo.
Yeah. She's
Yeah.
the blonde with the big hair who prances through the room. You're like, that's who
Hey,
you
baby,
want.
I'll take it, baby. If
That's
I could
right.
get it, I'd take it.
Yeah, it was money. It was
It's
a foot in the
hustle. It's a
door. It
hustle.
goes on the resume.
That's it. And it is a
Yeah.
hustle. And, our job as actors is to audition. That's our
Yeah.
job, and to audition and do the best job we can. I really did fall in love with voiceover though. And so that is my consistent like bread and butter. And I'm with several agencies. So I get a lot of auditions. I just saw some that were coming through. And so I'll get up. I do a lot of things, but I'll get up like at 5:30, 6 o'clock.
That's
Uh,
early.
Most days,
Woo!
7 o'clock at the
Look
latest.
at that 5 a.m. club. I've heard about those guys.
Some days.
That's the people who get stuff done though. The earlier you get
Well,
up.
listen, but it's getting harder as you get older. As I get older, it's getting a lot harder. So it's becoming 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock.
That's okay too.
But the reason is because I usually have a lot of auditions that are due, that day, either for the West
Mm.
Coast or here on the East Coast. So I get up and I just get on the microphone and I just start knocking them out. Boom, 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 boom.
Wow.
And so that's kind of my routine. And I can audition. I had 9 yesterday morning. I had 6 this morning. I only have 2 so far for the moment, but they're coming from all over the country. So this is from
So
several
do you
different.
record them and then
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
submit
yeah.
them? Okay.
Yep. So the way a voiceover audition works, yeah, you have your home studio, you get the script and the specs, you record a couple of takes with a slate or no slate, depending on the instructions. You label an MP3 file
Mm.
and you send it back to your agent and they submit it.
Wow.
And the one thing I've learned with voice acting, and maybe it is because I'm fortunate enough to have the volume of auditions, which you work toward. It's why
Hmm.
It's why voice acting is a multi-listing discipline. You might have one film agent or two film agents or a couple of appearance agents, but you're not going to have more than one on each coast, or maybe only one. Voiceover, because so much of the work is regional work that lives with those proprietary agencies in Seattle, Los Angeles,
Mm,
New York, the Southeast, Chicago, that in order to get the volume of auditions that you need to get a booking ratio up, you have to explore all the regional and national opportunities. So you're allowed, and your agents will allow this, even if you already have a film agent. Voiceover agents know that their actors are going to probably be listed with two or three people and maybe a
mm.
manager,
Oh, wow.
right? If you get a certain point. And that's part of your strategy as you're building your voiceover career is you want to add those people to your team so you get the volume of work. So, but I can audition literally, I think I counted it once, 300 times in a month and not book anything, you know,
Oh,
or
my
I can
goodness.
audition 300 times in a month and book two a
The
week or
mall.
three a week. Yeah.
Oh,
Or
my gosh.
and you can book a big job in voiceover where you make, $5,000, then you might
Mhm.
not book again for another month. Or you can
Yep.
make $80,000 on a huge campaign that you only work an hour for, but then you might not book for another year. I mean, because still there is that element that you can't control,
Yeah.
right? You're not casting.
Yeah.
So I learned very quickly because of the volume of auditions in voiceover, and I've kind of applied this to the on-camera world too, is to really let it go. I feel
Mm.
good about an audition if I know I've done a great job by my standards.
Yeah. That you've
Not,
done your
not
best, what you
theirs,
believe is your best.
my standards,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And the
And that's
same
all
thing,
anybody really can do is do your own personal best.
that's all we have control over.
Yeah. Exactly.
But you have to do that work, and you can't
Yeah.
be afraid of that work, and you have to educate yourself and know what that work is.
Yeah.
I have on-camera friends, and I'm like, look, if you're not working, you need to always be in class, be in workshops. I tell my voiceover students too. I coach with people who are further along in their career than me. I try to coach at least 3 or 4 times a year with some of the heavy
Hmm.
hitters, who have achieved things that I'd like to achieve,
Hmm.
and who have that certain wisdom and are willing to share it. Your education never stops, and I think
Yeah.
that's in our business where a lot of performers get hung up is they think it's this make or break. I got to
Mm.
make it by a certain age and I got to be rich and famous or I haven't made it. And it's like,
Yeah.
it's a working game,
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes you're stitching together nickel and dime. Sometimes you're raking it in. And when you're raking it in, you put it in the bank
And you invest. Yeah.
and you invest and you
That's
save
right.
it. Right, right.
Yes. You have
So
to be smart about it.
you got to be smart about it.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah,
why, I do the perpetual learning stuff because,
sure.
that's number one. I mean, Brian Tracy or any of these other gurus out there will tell you all the time, no matter what your goal is or your profession is, your number one thing is you better be learning always
All the time.
continuously learning. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what makes it fun too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what makes it fun. You're never stagnant.
Yeah.
I gave some great performances in my young career, and I've actually given some great performances in my adult career too, and then some very not so great performances too.
It
But I've
happens.
done some good work. But because I'm continuing to learn, I never feel like I always know I can do better, I can be better, or just try a different approach,
Yeah.
like learn what this person's doing that's maybe different, add it onto what I'm doing.
Hmm.
In the voiceover world specifically, there's so many genres. The work is everywhere. Everybody thinks voiceover is animation and video games, and okay, that's a lot of fun.
You're selling me. You're selling me because you've
There's
been telling me I
narration,
need to be
there's
doing this.
corporate narration, right? There's commercial work, which is 70% of the work.
Yeah.
There's industrial narration, there's audiobook. There's so many things,
Hmm.
and I've done a lot of those things, but there's still things I haven't done. So for me, what's great about voice acting is like uh there's always another world to explore.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of commercial work. I've done a lot of video game work, a little bit of animation. A lot of that still lives in Los Angeles, and they are preferring LA-based actors since the pandemic is
Mm.
gone. But not
Yeah.
always. Animation's really about the relationships you have with the casting directors, and if you have an agent that has access to the opportunities. That's really what that's about. And my animation agent says it doesn't really matter where you live, but I see in some of the auditions they're saying we'd like LA actors because they like to work with you in person in animation.
Oh, okay. 'Cause
Commercial,
they
they'll
want
do
you to come
remote
down to their
narration.
studio and
Mhm.
okay.
It's a lot of times, especially on a big animated series, it's
Mhm.
more like a TV show. So you
Yeah.
have a table read, you're often with the cast.
Oh, okay.
But a lot of video games are remote, and like when I did the Walking Dead video game, they flew me to San Francisco for the very first episode because I had to cry. I've never cried in a Coca-Cola commercial, but video games are different. Video games,
Wow.
very, very serious, or they can be comedic, but they're more like film acting. Well, I think this director just wasn't 100, like he really wanted to get the scene right. So
Yeah.
they flew me to San Francisco, first class all the way, recorded.
Nice.
We did the scene where I had to cry. I I I saw it in the script the night before. I was doing my prep the night before in the hotel. I saw the scene in the script the night before, and I closed it. I closed it right away. So first of all, the great thing in voiceover is you're never learning your lines. You don't memorize your script, even in a video game or an animated series. You're always working the paper because the
Right.
lines change and you have to make notes and things.
Hmm.
Well, anyway, I read this scene and I went, oh no, honey, I just knew the scene. It was about my character Nick felt deep, deep regret and felt responsible for his mother's death, and he's confessing it in the video game to Uncle Pete. And I read the first couple of lines and I said, I'm putting this away. I'm putting this away because I just knew it. I immediately resonated with it because I'm so close to
Wow.
was so
Yeah.
close to
Yeah.
and I knew right away where that lived, and I didn't want it to get stale,
Hmm.
right? And so I put the script away. Anyway, and I went in the next, and I wasn't worried about it at all. I went in the next day, and the director's like, okay, so first we're gonna do the scene where you cry. We'll do it as many times as we need to. Don't worry. We'll do it again and again. We'll do it. So you just take your time.
Was
So
it
we
one take?
roll, you know.
One
Yeah, I
take?
got it on the first
No
day.
way.
And we roll, and I'm like, and the tears are just coming, and you can hear it. And that's the important thing too. You have to hear it
Right.
because you can't see me, right?
Right.
You see the character, you see the
You have to
animation.
hear that emotion and
You
the
have to hear
feeling.
it, right?
Yeah.
But I nailed it. I was so proud of myself, you know? And
It's
that
awesome.
doesn't always happen now. That doesn't always happen
Yeah.
because it depends on the scene. There are a lot of scenes I've done and work I've done where I have to really dive in and really like learn. See, because when I worked with Mickey Rooney, he had a photographic memory and he never rehearsed.
Oh,
He would
wow.
just literally look at the sides right before we shot and they go, let's go. Because he felt like film was a spontaneous medium that you would catch things in rehearsal that would just never happen again.
Yep. I
And
agree
you
with that.
did something that first, right?
Hmm. Yeah, I
That's
agree
his
with
philosophy.
that. Yeah.
I do too. Now, for me, it depends. I agree with that. I do actually agree with that.
I
Like
do
the
that
callbacks I've
because
got.
I can
Yeah,
do a scene and I can be reading it and talking through it, but something happens when the camera
yeah,
comes on and you're in the moment and you
yeah,
put on that I'm this person like for real
for real.
and
Yeah,
it just happens. And it
right.
doesn't happen just like a rehearsal or two because you can kind of run through it and block everything out or whatever. But there's just something like when Joe Bob and I used to talk about doing stuff, on the show.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
when the film come on, like all of a sudden it's just like I was in the groove, man. And you're
That's
just
why
like,
they say, yeah, man.
it's
That's why
just
they say
different.
don't blow it in rehearsal, right? Like
Yeah.
don't shoot your wad in rehearsal, they'll say, like on a film
Hmm.
set, because there is stuff that you might not be able to get again and again and again and
Hmm.
again. I sometimes it works for me that way,
Hmm.
like with that Walking Dead scene, that's how it worked.
Hmm.
Sometimes I have to over prepare. And here's what I mean by that. Like I have to know that material backward and forward, right? Like
Or
I
to
have
feel
to,
real because sometimes it doesn't
right.
connect to you. Hmm.
That's right. No, sometimes it doesn't. I mean, we're
Yeah.
actors, so our job is to connect to it if it
Hmm.
doesn't connect to us, right?
Right.
And sometimes to do that, I have to first know the material backward and forward.
Yeah.
And what I'll do, and my acting teacher, Steve Coulter, taught me this many years ago. I'll take the script, the scene, and I'll do what's called the 10 times read.
Ooh.
I'll read it once, every bit, the other actors' lines, the stage directions, everything, all out loud,
Hmm.
all the way through. One time, mark it, all the way through. Second time, not trying to act, all the way
Hmm.
through. Third time, mark it. By the fourth or fifth time, you're starting to come off the page. And
Hmm.
by the 10th time, you know it really well. Then
Yeah.
I have to let it sit.
Hmm.
Then I can start making it my own.
Yeah.
But so sometimes that's how I work. I have to go from the outside in. But
Yeah.
sometimes you get this just great writing. And when I say great writing, I just mean like something that resonates with you.
Yeah. Like
Like you
it
just
like you
you,
feel like you've just instantly become that person on the
you know the
page.
scene.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Bunt Wallace, my character in Pumpkinhead, was very much like that. Like
Yeah.
I knew that kid. I grew up in North Carolina. I
Yeah.
have, relatives in the Appalachian Mountains.
Yeah.
And I know those people and I knew him. Something
Yeah.
about his mischievousness and his kind of,
Hmm. You
but
kind of
someone that
have
I
that
found,
lost boy,
yeah,
country boy kind of thing going on.
that's right. And
Yeah.
I knew. Now I did still find parts of his character as we shot. And Stan was really, really gracious to let us do that. He was a very
Nice.
good director. We shot the very first scene in the movie that I'm in, and it was my first feature film. So it was the first scene that I'd ever shot in a feature film. ever in my entire life.
Wow.
And I remember going home that night, same apartment in Canoga Park, and I thought, oh my God, I sucked. I must have sucked. I sucked so bad. Like I really was beating myself up, right? Thinking back on it, oh shoot, I wish I'd done that, wish I'd done,
Yep.
right? Well, man, I had some gumption back then that I probably don't have now. But the next morning, we were in the same location. And I went up to Stan. I said, Stan, I have an idea. I know we've already shot the scene, but we're all still here. I have an idea. What if, like, when she says, stop it, you're scaring him, I walk up to her real slow and menacing and I jump scare her.
Ooh.
And he
Hmm.
goes, I love it. Let's shoot it. And I'm like, oh
Nice.
God, okay. So then, so
Wow.
we did. And so that's the very first scene I have in the movie where he kind of like threatens her a little bit.
Yeah.
And that set the tone for his entire character. Like in that moment, I found the character.
Like who
And
he
as you
really
know,
is. Hmm.
yeah. And it's great when you have not just a director, but a process. Because a lot of times you just don't have time or
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
Like you're done, get it, you got to move. Especially
Hmm.
in our world, like in the indie world, it's like it's shoot it, let's get it. Which is
Hmm.
why we actors have to be so prepared and ready to go. Whatever that is for everybody, it's
Yeah.
different for
Yeah.
everybody. But in that situation, he really let us play and do things like that so that we could find the characters and connect, and so that, and that's why the movie stands out. It's
Wow.
also why it wasn't a huge success when it came out, because it wasn't Freddy or Jason. It wasn't what people were expecting from horror
Hmm.
movies at that time.
Hmm.
So it took it a long time to find its audience, but I'm so grateful it has, and
And
it's
everybody
so.
loves it. I
I
mean, my
know, man.
gosh, when you're at the convention, like people are just lining up and they can't wait for the panel and everything
Sometimes,
else. And I
yeah,
hadn't seen the movie
sometimes.
until at the frankencon. I think it was the
Oh,
frankencon.
that's awesome. Oh, I remember seeing you there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so I went out and watched it and I was
yeah, I
like,
saw
oh
you
my
there.
God. The same with the sleepaway camp.
Yeah.
Felicia was like, have you seen my movie that everybody's talking about? I'm like, I feel so bad. No. So
I
I
hadn't
made
either.
myself go
Yeah,
just
me
because,
too.
and boy, was it
I
fun.
hadn't either, and it was filmed in Georgia, and I hadn't seen it. And the first time I saw it was at frankencon with her panel, and I was blown away. I
Yeah.
told him afterwards, I said, "Listen, you're a great personality." I said, "But you're also a really good actor. I mean,
Yeah.
you're just a really good actor."
I haven't seen
She
anything she's
killed
done
it.
recently, but I've heard she's done a lot and I want to work with her. So, now
I'm
my
sure you
daughter's in,
will. I'm sure we'll all get to work together.
I
We're
hope so.
fortunate to know and meet. This is one thing great about the conventions is you meet all these awesome filmmakers
Yeah.
who are hungry and have great projects, and a lot of them are having great success, and they're so
Hmm.
kind
Yeah.
to want to like feature you in their film,
Yeah.
and I love the ones I did last year, and I'm sure that we'll end up working.
I would love
The
to. Wouldn't
trick
that be
is
fun?
to be in the same movie and actually be able to work together.
Yeah. Instead
Because a
of
lot of times
filming
they'll
in two
bring us in
different
for a day.
places. Yeah.
Yeah, way different days and everything.
Yeah. 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 You
But one
want
of
to
these
have some
days,
scenes together. That'd be fun.
I
But
would
yeah, I
love it.
haven't got
Wouldn't
to
that be
do
fun?
anything. I'm ready. I'm ready. I mean, I feel it. Like when I sit down and talk to you and other actors, I'm like, oh my God, I miss this so badly.
You're
It's
ready.
driving me nuts, to this
Yeah.
point where like, um, so I tried to get a couple agents and one guy said, oh, you're not iconic enough. I only deal with iconic old actresses and
Oh,
actors. And
God.
I was like, well,
I'm
okay
also not
then.
iconic enough, honey, so don't worry. But there's somebody out there for you. Don't
Yeah.
worry.
So I
Yeah,
am. So anybody's watching this, I'm looking for an acting agent and
absolutely.
maybe a convention. But the more I think about it, the whole idea of doing the voice. Um,
I'm
Another
telling you.
person came up to me, Sam. Met him at a convention. He came up to me and he goes, "I know exactly who you are. I used to watch you, back in the day." And he goes, "I love your voice." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I keep getting this. It must be something."
Oh, for
So,
sure. I love the radio ad you sent me. I
oh,
mean,
you
it's
did?
very sweet, very honest. It's sweet,
Well,
honest. And so you just got to find your range. And
yeah,
I'll tell you, I'm happy to help you. I do.
yeah. I know you got some coaching classes or
I
something.
do.
I
I
need
do.
to I need
Well,
to look online and figure all
yeah,
that
check it
out.
out. Can I do a plug
Yes, please
for
do.
anybody interested in
Yep.
voice acting?
Anybody who wants to learn.
Yeah, there's a great studio. It's based here in Atlanta, but it's a nationally reaching studio. It's run by Mike Stout and Heidi Rue. They're a husband and wife team who are the most prolific working voice actors. They both came from radio and then switched to voice acting, which is different from radio. It's a different genre. But a few years ago, they opened the Atlanta Voiceover Studio.
Atlanta.
And because there weren't really any resources for training voice actors or teaching you about the business. And they started this thing about 8 years ago. And the website is atlantavoiceoverstudio.com. They have an incredible array of classes, Sign up for their newsletter because they send out free tips every Monday and free information.
Wow.
The casting directors and agents that visit, and you can beam in virtually. You don't have to be here in Atlanta to take the classes or attend the workshops.
Wow.
I do an intro to voiceover workshop that I've taught there for 7 years. I was teaching it before I met Mike and Heidi. And then they're like, well, we have this studio and people are asking us if we do classes. And I said, well, look, I do this intro class. Let me do it with you. And I have been with them ever since. I
Wow.
absolutely love them. And truly, 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 their mission is to uplift and inspire and educate. That's all they are
I love
that.
that.
They are those kind of people.
I love
For
that.
example, when it's time to make your demo, they won't just take your money. Like they put you through the process of auditioning and they have you do one spot 5 different ways, all by yourself, to see if you can do that because you have
Yeah.
to have that versatility and that training to consistently work. And they make so I love everything about them. So it's atlantavoiceoverstudio.com. I do an intro to voiceover every month, once a month. It's on the website. People can join virtually, or if you're in Atlanta, come and be with me in person.
Nice.
And I teach about the business of voice acting because it's very different from our on-camera stuff. It's way different from the convention stuff.
Yeah.
And like there's a lot of work you can get on your own, a lot, which is
Yeah.
what's great about it. And then there are agency relationships that you'll need to get certain types of work. But I have
Yeah.
one student who makes $6,000 a month with just doing e-learning.
Oh, wow.
That's her base. She got every bit of that work on her own. Now
Wow.
that's just her base. And then she also now has agents and she gets other opportunities. But that's a pretty good nut to like start
Yeah.
out and build,
That's
right?
fantastic.
And she got all of it on her own. She found all
Wow.
of it through LinkedIn, through e-learning content creators on LinkedIn and on Google. A
Wow.
couple of the pay-to-play sites she started booking on and then developed client relationships with. So I teach all about that, like the business of it, where you find the work, what the work is. And then I teach a very simple performance technique for performing on the microphone that is the foundation of what we all learned, all of us on-camera people or anybody, for acting on the microphone. Because it is
Nice.
different. There are
Yeah.
no other actors, there's no sets, there's no costumes, so it's all about this.
Mm.
So it's a lot of fun and it's very informative. So honestly,
Nice.
anyone, excuse me, sorry,
That's
to,
okay.
to check that out.
Cool.
But yeah, there's my big long plug. As you can tell, I really love voice acting.
Hmm.
You can do it in your, never mind.
You
You,
got a soothing voice. It's very pleasant.
oh, thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. Yeah. I can
Thank you,
hear
thank
it.
you.
Oh my gosh.
But I've
Well,
enjoyed it. And I had more success in voice acting. I'm going to say this, but this is the wrong thing to say, but financially than I ever did in film and TV. And really, it allowed me to just support myself and make creativity. So,
oh,
but I
that's
think,
good.
but that taught me that I can do these other things too, because it
Hmm.
gave me the confidence.
Hmm.
But I think the thing I loved about it is we don't have to have our picture taken.
Hmm.
This is great, but it doesn't matter. It's
Yeah.
really how old you sound, not how old you look.
Yeah.
I can be a 3,000-year-old wizard or a 7-year-old baby goose or
Yeah.
just me, my normal me, right?
Right.
So you're not limited by the typecasting that we get so thrown into. And it makes sense in film and TV though, honey, because film
Hmm.
and TV is a photographic medium.
Yeah.
So you have to fit the photographic image,
Yep.
whatever the director has in mind for that character. It's a
Yep.
moving picture, right?
Yeah.
So
And
it
so you
makes
get a lot
sense.
more rejection probably
Oh
because,
yeah.
oh, you're too tall, you're too short, or,
Oh, for
just
sure. And
something.
I don't begrudge that. It is a photographic medium and you have
Yeah.
to fit the photographic image.
Hmm.
Even now, when people do approach me like to do their films, they're like, oh, your silver hair. Oh, you'd be the great psychiatrist. You'd be the great cult leader. You'd be the preacher, the charismatic preacher that has a dark secret, right? I'm like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
man, I'll take it.
Yeah. Well, sure. Why not? That all
Oh,
sound good,
I'll take it.
Yeah.
No, there
But then
was a
you,
time,
but then
yeah,
you couldn't do the other things like you were saying, like, the baby or whatever.
no, I can't play. I certainly can't play 21
Yeah.
anymore,
Right.
but I can on the
That's
microphone. I
right.
often do.
I
But
love it.
but I like that in my on-camera career too. It is a photographic medium, and I always looked really, really young. When I did Pumpkinhead, I
Mm.
was 22, and everybody thinks I was 15 when I did
Really?
that. Oh yeah,
Oh my God, you do
I
look
played
so
high
young.
school. Oh, thank you. I mean, I did. I played high school until I was about 27. The last thing
Mm.
I did was a TV show for CBS called TV 101.
Oh
We were all
yeah.
we were all playing high school, and we were all in our
Pushing 30.
20s and 30s. Yeah. But then I hit what they call the age out.
Mm.
So I didn't look young enough to actually act with real high school kids or people in their young 20s, but I definitely didn't look old enough yet to play the
Mm-hmm.
father or the lawyer or the doctor. Like
Yeah, I didn't have that
didn't do that.
distinguished look about you yet.
I didn't look old enough.
Yeah.
So I went through that a long period of kind of uncastability, like
Mm,
where to put in. But that's kind of when I started producing. I started casting.
mm,
I worked in post production as a producer. I worked as the on camera reader for a talent agency, and I'm still involved with that talent agency.
wow.
And I found my voiceover career. So
Yeah.
what that taught me is, and I teach my students, I teach at a university too. Success in this business, you know this firsthand. Success and sustainability in this business is really about diversification.
Mm-hmm.
It's about being able to do many different things and be interested in the industry as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
I tell my actors, if you want to be an actor, intern at a casting office. My writers, if you want to be a writer, be a script supervisor. Like go for the scripty job on set.
Mm-hmm.
Like, find things that are tangentially related because you start meeting people, you get
Mm-hmm.
your confidence up.
Always
Uh,
about connections.
yeah. And
Yeah.
then also you start supporting yourself in the business and it kind of demystifies it for you.
Yeah, and it also takes that stress off of you too, because that oh my God,
Amen.
I got to get a job, I got to get a job. Because when you have another flow of income coming in, you can kind of relax in it, and actually your performances are better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. Like when
Mm-hmm.
I get a voiceover audition now, I never look at the rate. I
Yeah.
trust that my agents have looked at the rate. I just look at the work
Mm-hmm.
because there was when I was a young actor in Los Angeles, man, I would go weeks eating Cheerios,
Yep.
and it'd be like, oh
Yeah.
my God, I need this job. And I mean, that is a reality for a lot of people. It's why a lot of artists, in Mozart's day, the artists had patrons.
Yeah.
A lot of people, it's easier if they have a partner that has like kind of a steady income because
Mm-hmm.
this is a freelance job.
Yep.
And if you do just make it on your own, and a lot of people do,
Yeah.
and I did, but I mean, I had to get myself psychologically ready for it.
Yeah.
My mom always said, "You better not quit your day job, Brian. You got all
That's
this money coming in, right?"
that's
She
right.
was Scarlett O'Hara, right?
Aw.
God is my witness.
Yeah.
Um, but I had to get to the point where I was comfortable being a freelancer.
Yeah.
And I remember what that was for me. It was after I started my voiceover career. I said, okay, I'm going to start a company and all the revenue from voiceovers are going to go into the company. I want to have 6 months worth of salary saved up in the company. And I still, at this
Mm-hmm.
point in my career, I still don't know where my next job's coming from, but I
Yeah.
keep that 6 months ahead.
Get that emergency fund.
You know what I'm saying? And then
Mm-hmm.
I said on top of that, I want to have 6 months of living expenses in my savings account.
Smart.
And until then, and once that happens, then I will take the leap and step out. And at the time I was producing, I was working in the business. I did learn. I remember when I was 26 years old, it finally dawned on me, if I have to have a day job, let me get it into the business.
Yeah.
And that's when I started producing and post producing and like working kind of behind the scenes, just wherever I could find work,
Mm-hmm.
casting, whatever.
Well, those are all great tips, and we have like 1 minute
Oh
left.
shit, man. I should have told you before
See,
we started that
we
I
should
I
we
just
should have done a
ramble.
whole hour, but
I'm
that's all
sorry,
right.
honey. Well, let's do it
Next time,
again sometime.
I would love to. Oh my gosh,
Now,
please do.
and next time we do it, you just tell me to shut up because
Oh
I should have
no,
told you
I
before we
want.
started. I
We're
will
interviewing
ramble.
you, so I want to hear you rambling. Tell us all these great information because everybody's gonna
Oh
love it
man, I
because you're
love
just
you.
so amazing.
Oh, you are. I love you.
You're
I'm
just
so
so
glad
cute.
we thank you for your patience in working this out. And I can't wait to see you again real soon.
Not a problem. So I'll
In
see you in
person.
May,
See
right?
you in May,
May.
sweetheart.
All
Yeah.
right, great. Oh, such a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me. And
It was my
everybody, hit the
pleasure.
like button because you know you love Brian. You know you love Brian.
It was my pleasure, honey. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks. Have a great rest of the day.
You too, sweetheart. I'll
See
see you
ya.
later.
Love you. Bye.
Bye. Love you.